Hi, Reverend Paula Zabkar here with Spiritual Soul Center. It's good to be with you in this way. Here we are in this pandemic, but we can still be together. We can still connect. We can still have a way to stay in touch with each other. And I realized, we had a board meeting yesterday, and I realized, virtually, of course, that we need to shake it up a little bit. So stay tuned to Spiritual Soul Center. We're going to be doing some different things. We're going to be expanding our way of communicating. We're going to be incorporating a few more projects as a way to be in service to each other. So I'm excited. I'm excited for our board. They have been very generous with their time and their creativity, and it all shows. So I hope you are finding inspiration and some grounding in what we have to offer on social media as well as in our newsletters. So I've been thinking this week about this idea of becoming. Like, what am I becoming? In the midst of everything that's happening, what am I becoming? Isn't that what life's really about? It's about becoming. And I'm not talking so much about the doing piece of it, like what am I doing, what are my accomplishments and my goals, but about what it means to become. Like, what does that really mean to become? And of course, I love looking up words. I love dissecting them and bringing them down to a closer idea and understanding of what it's about. And if you look up the definition of becoming, it's to come into being. To come into being, not to come into doing, but to come into being. And for much of my life, I was unaware of that. I was unaware of coming into being. You might recognize this sign. I was not woke. I was not woke to this idea of coming into being, of becoming. I was focused on things, maybe many of you were, graduating from college and starting a career and starting a new relationship and developing friendships and then having another degree and becoming a minister and all these doing things. I was focused on doing, when becoming is really something different than that. It's something deeper. It's about coming into being. Coming into being. And what I came to understand as I thought about it this week was really the emergence of my soul, the emergence of your soul to come into being, kind of like a flower comes into being. It doesn't work or toil or have a goal or an objective. It simply grows from a seed and comes into being. The stalk forms, the leaves form, and soon this bloom, however large, however small, it comes into being. It comes into the beauty that it already is. And I think that is informative to me and hopefully informative to you about how we come into being. It doesn't depend on the outer accomplishments. It's a way of our soul being emerged and it's something then that we can depend on. This idea of emerging from our soul, that we can depend on what comes from that. We can depend on the courage and the strength and the vulnerability that comes from the emergence of our soul. But for a long time, and for many times throughout the day, maybe even, and the weeks, we tend to ignore it. We tend to not focus on it because we are so focused on the doing nature of us, the doing nature of us, which is our human nature, versus the being nature of us, this emergence of our soul. So I think while we're here on the earth, we do have an opportunity to emerge in that way, to become what we already are, to become the beauty that we already are, to become our true nature. Okay? And I was looking for some inspiration for that, and I was led by, as often, if we're aware, we can be led to the Beatitudes. And in Matthew chapter 5, verse 5, says this: "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Have you ever thought about that? Like, it doesn't sound quite right, does it? If we look around us and we look around what's happening in the world, we don't see, I think, the meek inheriting the earth. We see the powerful inheriting the earth. We see money. We see greed. We see power in all its forms seem to be inheriting the earth. But that's the thing about spiritual principle. It doesn't apply the same in the physical world. Spiritual principle applies in our spiritual nature. And the physical world can result out of that, but it's certainly not the object of it or where we find the wisdom in spiritual work. So I say that those of us who are meek are really have found the way to come from the power that is the beauty in us already. That's what I say. We have decided, those who are meek have decided not to get caught up in the emotion of the world, not to be caught up in the desires and the success of the world, and have decided instead to rely on the divine nature that they are. They have decided to depend on the divine nature, the beauty that's inherently within them. And when we are meek, we cannot be shaken. Now, what does meek really mean? Well, here's the definition of meek that I want us to consider, and that is to be patiently calm, to be humble, and to be peaceful. Someone who is patiently calm, humble, and peaceful cannot be shaken. Cannot be shaken, and that is our true nature. That is our true nature. That is what we are at our core. Patiently humble, patiently calm, and patiently peaceful. And you might notice, if you take a more detailed look, is that is how the world is really changed. Those who have big voices, those who are constantly requiring attention, that's not really what rules the world of me for me and the world of you for you. Being humble and staying calm is about not being carried far from our center, regardless of what's happening around us. Right now you might be saying, oh, Paula, really? But there's all this stuff going on. There's all these injustices going on. There's all these things that I need to get out there and put this energy around, to call attention to make known, to make some noise about. To do all that, we need to make these things right. We need to set things straight. But I say that the meek know how to address those injustices. Those who are coming from that place of centered and calm consistently, and that's who and how we can change the world. When we are tied to that meekness, when we are tied to that peace and strength within, that's when things are possible. That's when all things are possible. That's when all things are possible. So don't be misled by the appearance of meekness, because in that meekness is an expression of God itself, is an expression of the divine, is an expression of power beyond anything we can see in the world. You know, I was thinking of the story that I shared to you a few years back at Spiritual Soul Center about Daryl Davis. Do you remember him? Daryl Davis is a jazz pianist. He would play in clubs. He's a black man, and he decided, he dealt with a lot of prejudice in his life. He dealt with a lot of prejudice. White men and women would come and hear him play, but they didn't treat him as an equal. They didn't treat him as an equal. And he wanted to know this. He says, I want to know how you can hate me if you don't know me. I want to know how you can hate me if you don't know me. So rather than get caught up with these men who were members of the Ku Klux Klan, that's the question he asked. That's a question that comes from meekness. That's a question that comes from humility and peaceful calm. That's a question that comes from patient calmness within. And you know the result of that if you know Daryl Davis's story. He becomes friends. He wants to know the common nature with himself and someone who could hate him just for the color of his skin. And by doing so, by his own power, by the power of God in him, by the power of the divine in him, has convinced Ku Klux Klan members to hang up their robes when they recognize the truth of that. When they recognize the truth. That's the power of meekness, my friends. That's the power of being meek and humble and patiently calm. There's another man whose story is not the same, but who expresses meekness. And that is a man by the name of Richard Phillips. He was convicted of a murder he didn't do. He was sentenced to life in prison. He spent 38 years in prison for a murder he did not commit. And about the 18th year he was in there, he started painting. He started painting these amazing paintings. And if you go to his website now, you can read a little bit about him. And he said the reason he started doing that is to keep his heart soft and his hopes alive. To keep his heart soft and hopes alive. Here's this man who eventually got out after 38 years because someone else admitted that they lied about his involvement. And he survives today and is who he is today because he knew that even being in prison for something he didn't do, that to keep a tender heart, to keep a soft heart was important. To be meek right there in the midst of what he was dealing with, of being accused and being condemned to prison for such a long time. Well, those are amazing stories. And what they show to me is that we are not here to change the world. We are simply here to be the beauty that we are right in the moment where we find ourselves. Do you hear that? We are here to be the beauty that we are right here in the moment we find ourselves. That is becoming. That is becoming. And to be woke, to be awakened to that, to know that that's how it happens. It happens from meekness. It does not happen from aggression. It does not happen from aggression. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how old you are, what education you have, what level in life you find yourself. You can become. You can become all that you are here to become. And you can carry that becomingness into wherever you are in life. Wherever you are in life. You know, I've been working on the unity principles and the unity teachings and the teachings of New Thought and these ways of understanding life and how life works since 2001. And before that, when I started my conscious spiritual journey in 1996. And what I realize is that I bring all of that, what I'm willing to be, what I am becoming, into every aspect of my life. It doesn't stop when I'm reading a spiritual book or when I'm writing about spiritual things. It comes into every aspect of my life. One of my other jobs is to be a construction contract administrator. And I remember when I was heading to my first job as a minister in Durham, and I was leaving that work, and one of my good friends, a project manager, said to me, you know, construction really needs you, and I'm sad to see you go. And I was kind of like, well, what's that about? And I realized today that it was more about bringing my becoming there. Bringing my becoming and my understanding into a place that normally that doesn't happen. And how did it show up? Well, when looking back, I can realize that I facilitated many meetings in construction trailers, many meetings, with mostly and almost exclusively men sitting around the table. Men from younger than me to older than me, all construction people sitting around a table in a meeting that I'm facilitating. And one of the strategies that I used to engage and to let people know that they were important enough is at the end of each meeting, I went around the table by name, calling each man and saying, is there anything you want to add? Is there anything we haven't talked about? Is there a concern you have that we should take on here? And I believe it was those sorts of things to bring my becoming, to bring my coming into that peaceful calm, to recognize humility, even though I was supposedly the one in charge, to invite people into that made a difference. Not typically maybe what you would find in that sort of environment. Not working against people, but seeing people and inviting them in. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I was able to do that. Now, did I do it perfectly in every meeting all the time? Well, no, I didn't. But I recognized that my becoming was overflowing into other areas of my life, So I invite you to think about that in your life, to bring your becoming, to bring what really is your emergence of your own soul, to bring your spiritual understanding, your patient calm, to be patiently calm and see how that plays out in your life, to be peaceful and to be humble in what you do and how you are and how you carry yourself, and to allow your becoming to heal not only your own soul and to reveal your own soul, but to heal others as well. So let's take these kinds of ideas of becoming into this short meditation today. I invite you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and to simply be, to allow the wisdom of your soul to rise up to feel in this moment now at ease and receptive to the wisdom and the beauty that resides in you at this very moment. To imagine yourself as that flower that emerges from the seed with no effort expended by it, but to simply know that life is living me. Life is living me. Life is breathing me. Life is beating my heart, circulating the blood through my entire body. Just as life is living that flower, allowing it to grow, to create the bud, to bloom in the beauty that it is and was from the very start. And so we are that. We are already a complete and beautiful soul. And our becoming is in allowing that beauty to be known. First to our own selves, and then with patience and humility and peaceful ease to be known in the world. So let's sit just for a moment, breathing in and breathing out, and being still. Now, with a grateful heart, we breathe easily into this greater awareness of the truth that I become as I allow my soul to emerge from the very depth of myself. I invite you now to open your eyes and look around and be amazed at the beauty that you see and also the beauty that you are. Grateful, grateful we are. And so it is. Amen. I hope this message was something that resonated with you, something that you feel inspired by, something that you might sit with and feel the energy of. And then, as always, to hear, but to discern yourselves, to discern in your own soul, in your own heart, what it is that you feel, what it is that you know, how it is that you're guided, where that wisdom comes from deep within you. Let's close, as we do at Spiritual Soul Center, in this way, with this prayer. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be happy. Amen. Y'all have a good week.